He vowed to drain the swamp. But 3 months in, he's watering its roots. The National Endowment for Democracy, once in Trump's crosshairs, is back with nearly $250 million. The same man who raged against the deep state is now funding its favorite weapon. So is the revolution real or just rebranded? The grand vision proclaimed during the campaign has quietly begun to unravel, just 3 months into his second term. Donald Trump's administration has made a stunning reversal that few of his supporters seem to have noticed. The National Endowment for Democracy, an organization Trump vowed to dismantle as part of his war against the deep state, has triumphantly announced the restoration of its funding. On March 10, 2025, the NED published a celebratory announcement on its website. NED welcomed State Department's initial steps towards restoring funding. The organization that many Trump supporters believed would be consigned to history is now back in business. We commend the State Department for this move. Under Secretary Rubio's leadership, these are important steps toward fully restoring our ability to support frontline defenders of democracy in repressive regimes, including Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, China, Russia, and elsewhere. What makes this reversal particularly striking is how it contradicts Trump's explicit campaign rhetoric. For years, Trump positioned himself as the outsider fighting against entrenched bureaucratic interests, what he and his supporters branded the deep state. This narrative was central to his appeal. Yet here we are, with the restoration of funding to an organization that represents precisely what Trump claimed to oppose, an unelected body that wields significant influence in shaping America's relationship with the world. The NED's own statement reveals the scale of what's being restored. Access to $167 million in obligated funds, plus an additional $72 million already appropriated by Congress. That's nearly $250 million flowing back to an organization that Trump supporters were led to believe would be dismantled. But what's more alarming for those who took Trump at his word is the timing. This reversal didn't come after years of pressure or political compromise. It came barely 3 months into his second term, suggesting the dismantling was never seriously considered. To understand the significance of this reversal, we need to understand what the NED actually does. Established in 1983, the National Endowment for Democracy operates as a private nonprofit foundation, but receives its funding directly from the United States Congress. The NED describes itself as dedicated to supporting democracy and human rights worldwide. It provides grants to organizations in more than 100 countries, funding everything from independent media outlets to civil society groups and political organizations. Critics, however, view the NED through a different lens. They see it as a tool for American interference in the internal affairs of sovereign nations, a means of advancing U.S. strategic interests. Under the guise of promoting democracy, political analyst Brian Belichick wrote on the net, is one of the deep state's most effective weapons and central in the Trump administration's and all administrations before it. Foreign policy of undermining, coercing, and overthrowing foreign governments around the globe. What makes this organization particularly controversial is not just what it does, but how it does it. The NED effectively allows the U.S. government to fund political opposition groups in countries where such funding would be problematic if done directly through official channels. And now, in a telling development, the NED has announced a significant change to its disclosure policies that in April 2025, just a month after funding was restored, the organization declared that the NED would no longer disclose the organizations and political opposition groups it is funding around the globe. We only publicly share grantee or partner information when doing so is consistent with their security consent and the objectives of their work. We do not publish names, locations, or project details that could endanger individuals operating in hostile environments, that we follow strict internal protocols to protect personally identifiable information, and are committed to continuous review and improvement of these practices to match evolving threats and statutory guidance. This shift towards greater secrecy comes at the precise moment when the organization is being re-empowered by an administration that claimed it would bring transparency and drain the swamp. The new policy document also states NED's duty of care policy is built on the principle that the safety and well-being of our grantees and partners must never be compromised. While this sounds reasonable on its face, the practical effect is that American taxpayers, and indeed the world, will have even less insight into which groups are receiving American funding. And for what purpose? The restoration of NED funding presents a fascinating paradox. In January 2025, just days before his inauguration, Trump laid out ambitious plans to seize greater control of the federal government, vowing to dismantle what he and his allies called the deep state. Central to this plan was an executive order known as Schedule F, designed to strip job protections from an estimated 50,000 career federal employees, allowing their replacement with hand-picked loyalists. Russell Vought, Trump's nominee to lead the Office of Management and Budget, testified before the Senate that reclassifying career employees would ensure the president has individuals who are responding to his views. His agenda. The vision was clear. Transform the federal bureaucracy by installing loyalists at every level. Yet simultaneously, the administration has restored funding to one of the very institutions that represents the entrenched power structure. Trump claimed to oppose this contradiction raises profound questions about who is truly in control. Is Trump reshaping the deep state, or is the system absorbing and redirecting his presidency? James Eisenman, an expert on federal workforce policy, offered this perspective. When people are afraid, it's not easy to get them to do stuff. Perhaps the same principle applies to presidents as well as bureaucrats. The incoming administration admits they will use Schedule F to subject professional employees to professional or to political loyalty tests and will get rid of the undesirables. Yet when it comes to an organization like the NED, with its deep connections to both political parties and the foreign policy establishment, even Trump appears unwilling or unable to follow through on his promises of dismantlement. The question that Trump supporters might now be asking themselves is whether their champion is transforming the system from within, or whether he too has become a servant of the very deep state he once vowed to destroy. The restoration of NED funding suggests an uncomfortable answer.